Hello all and welcome to Frame by Frame, where we take a closer look at iconic film scenes. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And in today's episode, we are going to be discussing a scene from Raging Bull. If you want to watch the scene, we will include a link in our show notes to where you can go watch the scene. I think it's only a couple minutes long. Go experience it and then come back and listen to the rest of our conversation so you can know all of the things we're referring to that happen in this scene. Okay, short description of what happens in this scene from Raging Bull.
Yeah, in this scene, Jake's wife is cooking a steak and it's not up to par. You can imagine what happens next.
Oh, it's really bad. You want your steak? You want it? Oh, man. So I'm so excited to talk about this scene because, gosh, this is an incredible film. So we get an amazing excuse to rave about Raging Bull and our guy Scorsese, which is one of my favorite directors. And you are rocking Scorsese.
Scorsese scores. Can't really see it very well, but in every aspect of filmmaking, Scorsese scores. And that was your one-sentence summary from our Killers of the Flower Moon episode. Oh, yeah. And we loved it so much that we made it into merch, currently available in our store. Yeah. So if you also want to rep Scorsese, because he's awesome, go check out our store. Link is in the show notes.
Can you stand and give us, can you show the goodness?
Maybe. We'll see.
Sarah did an amazing job designing this. Yes.
There's a little basketball hoop down here. Scorsese scores.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and the yellow font, it's so good. It's so good.
And so if you're listening to the podcast, go over to YouTube at Movies and Us Pod, and then you'll be able to see what the sweatshirt looks like. It's also really comfy. I'm having a great time in this. I'm so cozy.
I love that color. We also have lots of different colors you can choose from. Big, oversized, comfy. Don't you want to be enveloped in and hugged by Scorsese? The Scorsese pride, you know?
There we go. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but
I would love to give Marty a hug.
That would be sweet. He seems like a nice guy.
Yes, especially in his elder years, he's so endearing. I watched this clip on the socials of his granddaughter or something doing TikTok style interviews with him, and he's so funny and so savage. King, our king. It's great.
We love Scorsese.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about a Scorsese film and some incredible work that he's done. I think Raging Bull is a great showcase of a classic Scorsese protagonist, and some of the themes, some of the ideas, some of the filmmaking techniques are very much used in this film. And so I'm excited to talk about this scene. You want your steak. Sarah, what makes this scene from Raging Bull so iconic to you?
Yeah, what makes this scene from Raging Bull so iconic to me is Lori Ann Flax's performance as Irma. She is just seething in this scene, and her performance is so powerful. You have Robert De Niro, he's doing his thing. You got Joe Pesci coming in doing his thing. But for me, she absolutely steals the show. The way that she looks at him and responds to him is just so intense and is so indicative of what their relationship is like. I feel like in this 3-minute clip, you understand their entire relationship. And I love her performance in this. She is absolutely electric, going up against one of the greatest actors of a generation. Shout out to her for such an incredible performance as Irma. But what about you? What about this scene from Raging Bull is so iconic to you?
Yeah, the thing that I remember most about this scene and that I experience so every time I watch a scene, even though I know what's going to happen, I know when the explosive moments are going to happen, and yet it's the unpredictability of the violence and the outbursts that are jarring for me every time. My adrenaline is pumping, my blood pressure is through the roof because we feel the brimming chaos within Jake. And when that explodes, we don't get a tee up. We don't get a build up for it. It just kind of explodes and then contracts again by the end of the scene, which is, hey, oh, let's be friends, you know? And that is so classic Scorsese to have violence always looming and ready to break forth at any moment. So much of that is from like the childhood context that he's grown up in and seeing violence kind of always ready to be lit at any moment. And he builds that so much into his films as well. And so when Jake explodes in this scene, and continues to explode time and time again, I think the kinetic energy of the violence and how terrifying it is because of the unpredictability is what makes the scene from Raging Bull shine. And it's throughout the whole rest of the film too. You are not at rest after the scene. It just continues to actually intensify over the course of the film.
Yeah, this is just a little tiny taste of what you can expect throughout Raging Bull. We recently reviewed Raging Bull over on the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast. We reviewed it back in December, and I was surprised because it had been a few years since I watched Raging Bull, and I was
Yeah.
surprised at how early this scene is in the film, and I think how important this scene is in kind of showing how Jake responds to everybody in his life. You know, his wife and his brother are the two that we
Mhm.
see interacting with him in this scene, and we see how volatile he is and how violent he is with the people that he loves the most. And I think that that's a theme that obviously carries throughout the entire film, but this scene is so indicative of what Raging Bull does for the entire runtime.
Yeah, I'm also in my memory, this happens kind of in the one third mark of the film, but actually, yeah, watching Raging Bull in this most recent watch, this is one of the first moments we're introduced to this character. This is actually one of the first moments we see him. It's not a good look. It's not a good look for Jake LaMotta, but I think that unsatiable, restless energy, the need to prove himself, to assert his position in every room and context that he's in, both on the global stage and at home, is so present in this scene. And we see the way that that will cause his downfall over the course of the rest of the film. So, yeah, what a way to be introduced to a character. Uh, I also really love the editing and the pacing of the scene. So, it's quite funny. We get to see Pesci rolling around with Frank Vincent, and they're talking about needing to scheme and figure out how to satisfy the mafia heads and whatnot. And right before we cut back to Jake in the apartment with his wife, Pesci's like, "Yeah, I'll talk to him, see if he's a good mood." And then we cut to him walk in the door and be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what I've walked myself into." But that cutting and editing, the release, temporary release of tension, only for us to actually feel it more intensely because we're feeling what Pesci's feeling of like, man, they're still fighting. It was not resolved. I don't know what's going on up in that apartment, but now that I'm walking back in the door with Pesci, it's not good. It's not good. The tensions have only risen. And so Scorsese's way of almost giving us that release, that moment of respite, only for us to be hit back with it again and even more intensely, is kind of a genius filmmaking move in cutting the scene together and pacing it the way that it happens. He gives us a break and then throws us back into an even deeper pool of tension and chaos.
And I also love Jake yelling at the neighbor too, because it's funny and shows just how out of control he is
Mm,
too. Like he is just fighting anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter what they did. He is like the instigator, and like he needs this for some reason. Like this is
yeah.
how he is responding to the world, whether you are his wife or his brother or some random person who's a neighbor. His response is violent. And
Mm.
again, what a way to introduce this character.
Yeah, yeah. And how much the urban landscape is a part of the world that these characters are inhabiting and add to the tensions of the scene. I think I also can feel like the heat in that apartment, summertime in New York City, you're just on edge and it needs to come out in some way. And it's explosive when you least expect it, but it's not just this fight between the two of them, but almost like the environment that they're in is so frenetic and anxiety inducing and chaotic in the world that they're living in. You know, even when Pesci's walking down the street up to Jake's apartment, you see the chaos of the streets and them having to like walk around folks and people are fighting and people are milling around and just how much that contributes to this. Uh, when you're impatient, being hot, being around crowds of people that are yelling just makes you more impatient and you're ready to snap at anyone. So I love how much the like world also builds into the the tension's about to explode in a match.
The other piece that I really love is how small that apartment is. You know, the kitchen is just a few paces away from the bedroom. When Jake flips the table over, Pesci can barely get into the apartment. Like he has to like squeeze in past the table because the table takes up that entire dining nook. And so
Mm,
I love the way that you feel so confined in that apartment. Again, showing, you know, how Jake probably feels, who has all of this ambition and all of this talent, and he's stuck in this little tiny life that he doesn't feel like he is equipped for. So I love the way that the filmmaking makes you feel that. Obviously, like you said, we feel hot and sticky and it's the summer in New York and it feels gross, but you also feel confined and you feel Irma has no place to go. You know, she can go into this bedroom,
yeah.
but she's just a couple of feet away from her violent husband who's yelling at her still through the door. And so you feel stuck, you feel isolated, you feel kind of trapped. And I think it's brilliant from a production standpoint to create that apartment so small, and just the way that it's filmed and the way that the space is used to reinforce that, I think is also pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it's so good. They're constrained, they're confined, there's nowhere to go. Uh, but that also breeds like this feeling of being trapped. And so much of Jake's story is like him being trapped in his own mind and like having nowhere to go and feeling like there's no respite, there's no release for him. It's fascinating. I also just like from a purely like from a dialogue perspective, I love that they just argue about the steak the whole time. You know, like no one's like, you never take care of me, or like, you always get on my nerves. No, it's just, don't overcook the steak. It's not done yet. No, I said it's done. Bring it over. And that's so true to life. That's how we are as humans. We don't know how to voice our needs, our emotions, our real feelings. So we'll pick something and argue about that thing even though there's so much loaded context behind it. Like she's frustrated because she hates being yelled at. She's being pushed around by him. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff that he is just a menace at home. But also he's fixating on this small thing because he has this frustration that doesn't know where to go and he can't articulate. He doesn't even understand himself. And that's so human of us to argue about the tiniest small things as representative of bigger things, but we just don't. It's too vulnerable. It's too vulnerable to have to voice this thing. So let's argue about the steak, some random small detail, and let's get heated about that. So I love the way that it's written, and they don't ever figure it out. You know, it's just someone's mad, and we argued about the steak, and then it's over. We never actually understand each other, listen to each other. It's just it blows over, and you keep going. You want to be friends? Oh God, come on, Annie, let's be friends.
Yeah, I think the only time that the argument evolves, I think she yells at him about carrots. Like, so we go from
We go,
steak to carrots,
yeah,
but that's as far as we get in our journey of this conversation. Oh man, and then of course his brother comes in and flips the table back over, and Jake starts to calm down, and I
yeah.
love that she's still just seething in that
Mhm.
room. You can't see her, but we know how angry she is. And you feel that anger just like radiating from her through the door. And then the juxtaposition of Jake just sitting there laughing, come on, honey, let's be friends, I think is such a brilliant way to end that scene too. And again, a really good example of what life looks like for the people in Jake's orbit. That he blows up and then he's like, oh, I don't, you shouldn't react to that because
Yeah.
I want us to be friends again. Like, why are you upset that I yelled at you about a steak and threw the food on the ground and flipped the table over and threw you in another? You shouldn't be upset about that. Let's be friends. So I
Hmm.
love that as a almost like comedic reprieve in the fight, but there's also something so ominous and sinister about that too,
Yeah.
that he can just like disregard other people's feelings and is like, well, I'm over it, so you should be over it too.
Yes, yes. And now that's a fascinating point because he never takes accountability over the course of the film. And spoiler alert for Raging Bull, because we're going to talk about the ending for a bit, but it's a fascinating if we zoom out and look at the way that the film is bookended with this fight and the way he resolves it with his wife, his previous wife. And in the ending scene of Raging Bull, when he and Pesci's character, Joey, attempt to make up, same thing. He's over. He's come on, Joey. Let's get over. It's been so many years. No apology. No accountability. No expression of understanding. I know I hurt you. I'm so sorry. It's that I shouldn't have done. Nope. Just I'm done. Why are we not moving on? Come on, move on now. And there's no real reconciliation that he knows how to do. He just knows how to move forward and have it blow over. But that's a fascinating way that the film is bookended to showcase he hasn't really grown over the course of the film, even though he might think that he's made some progress. But the bookends of how he explodes and then deals with conflict and expects everyone else to move along with him is fascinating when we start the film with the stake and then we see the much deeper betrayal that he has with Joey, and he expects Joey to be okay with it as well and move along with him.
Oh, Jake. Ugh, this
Not
guy.
good. Not good.
Not good at all. Yeah, don't be like Jake is a really good moral for Raging
Hmm.
Bull.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
do the exact opposite of what he would do.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
someone overcooks your steak,
Unhealthy.
maybe don't yell at them and throw your food on the floor and flip the table over.
Yeah.
I feel like
Well.
there's other ways to deal with this.
Shout out to De Niro though for just this the
Mhm.
performance in this entire film, but I think he
So
shines
good.
really well in this one because even at the end of the scene when he's saying, "Ah, come on, honey, let's be friends," there's this like mixed look in his eyes where like there's it's still raging. There's still so much like fire and flames in his eyes as it's still terrifying. Honestly, it's terrifying to see that maniacal laugh, that smile, but he's like, "Don't you ever cross me again. I will let this one go." But there's still so much danger that feels like it's still looming and if anything even closer because we've seen what he's capable of. So I just love that De Niro is able to hold that like surface level laughter and joyfulness and levity, but like that explosive anger is still there. It has not gone anywhere when he's laughing by the end of the scene. So great job, De Niro, as well.
The other thing that I just thought of while you were talking is Joey comes in at the perfect time. And
Mm.
I wonder if Jake feels like he has to put on a face now because
Hmm.
there's a witness. And so
Yeah.
that fight might have ended differently if Joey had never showed up.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about that before, and that makes this scene even more terrifying.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just how much over the course of the film, Joey is that soothing balm, that safe place, that haven. He understands his brother enough to know how to give Jake that ease, that space to just not rile himself up even more. And so, just almost like even the presence of Joey walking through the door immediately diffuses a lot of the chaos for Jake too. So, yeah, and therefore by the end of the film there's no one to show up anymore. There's that breaking of the relationship that happens by the end between him and Joey.
So wild. I love this scene just like as its own little scene. It is one of my favorite scenes in the film, but I appreciate that there's so much depth in this one scene. It's
Hmm.
not just, this silly scene about overcooking the steak, but like we've talked about, it is indicative of so much that you see throughout the film, and it
Yeah.
really is a brilliant way to like start our journey with Jake throughout the rest of the story.
And uh, while we're talking about how this scene like sets up so many arcs for Jake over the course of the film, we see the way that he takes out his anger on the women in his life, and that is also foreshadowing for the relationship that he has with his next wife as well, and how much he sabotages and self-destructs that relationship as well. So this is the first, but it is the same pattern that he will repeat again over the longer course. And we get to actually see that relationship devolve, but he repeats the same thing with his next relationship. It doesn't grow from this at all. So that foreshadowing of the women being kind of the collateral damage of how he is wired being true for the rest of the film too.
And it makes his like courting of Vicky again seem sinister, and you're like, Vicky, you're in danger, girl. Like, I need you to not put yourself in this situation, because we see what he did with Irma, and that was a mild altercation.
Yeah.
So, but I love how this scene builds that tension into their relationship, because we've seen this dark side of him even before she has seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. This scene is such a microcosm for the rest of the film, and understanding all of the different wirings and threads within this character, the relationship dynamics he has with women and with his brother that are kind of the essential core to the rest of the film. So it's fascinating that this is the way we get introduced to this character, and it really springboards us on this very stressful journey over the course of the rest of the movie. But an incredible film, a tragic journey. You're in for a ride with Raging Bull. But this was our scene breakdown of this iconic scene, You Want Your Steak, from Raging Bull. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Frame by Frame. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating or review, letting us know your thoughts about this opening scene from Raging Bull. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Movies and Us Pod, or email us at moviesandUsPod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us. We are a part of the Movie Archer podcast network, so check out moviearcher.com to learn more. Also, as we mentioned, if you want Movies and Us merch, go check it out. We'll link it in the show notes. Scorsese scores every time. All right, well, keep an eye on this feed. We will be back with another Movies and Us review coming up here soon. In the meantime, we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you all again very soon.